pros are, the cons. Is it really worth it? Should you be moving to Texas? Are we already overpopulated?
It's only me, it's only me, it's only me, only me. But when you hate it, passed up on me, that made me greater. So now you'll see.
What's up, YouTube? It's your girl, Michaela Monique, and that's Micha'ela, like Michaela, not your Kayla, but Micha'ela. Now that we got that out the way, today's video is going to be all about living in Houston, Texas. Everybody and their mama is moving to Texas. And we want to talk about why that is. I really want to get honest about some pros and cons. I have been living in the Houston area for about 17 years and have a little bit of a different perspective on what it's really like living here. So I wanted to get into what the hype is, what the pros are, the cons. Is it really worth it? Should you be moving to Texas? Are we already overpopulated? So without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, I don't know if I want to start with the pros or the cons. We're just gonna mix it up, okay? So, all right, so the first con that I will talk about, and like literally the first thing that comes to mind, is the traffic. It wasn't always this bad. Like, I've always lived in the outer skirts of Houston, and so like I've been here since before some of the streets had red lights and they only had stop signs, or they literally had nothing, like no lights, no anything. So over time, I will say that the traffic has become literally insane. If you're trying to get into the city or leaving the city anytime in the morning or in the evening, you need to have some good music. You need to have a playlist, a podcast, a friend to talk to, because if not, you're going to be driving yourself crazy in the car, sitting in bumper to bumper traffic. That's definitely something to consider if you're thinking about moving here. Like, there are a lot of areas that have their own little cities, and I'm going to get into that also, so that technically you really don't have to commute too far unless you're doing commuting for like work or projects or anything like that. But for the most part, you can really get around Houston and have everything you need in your little subsections. On the topic of traffic, I want to talk about something that's kind of like a pro and a con at the same time, is that Houston has a lot of tollways. Like, I remember like passing up opportunities as far as work is concerned because of the tolls. Like, thinking, okay, if I accept this offer, I'm going to be spending $400 in tolls, or else I'm going to be driving 2 hours in traffic. So it's definitely a pro, because like you can get places a lot faster if you're willing to go the toll route. But then also, if not, like, the city is so big that you're using so many tolls that it becomes a literal expense that you have to start budgeting for every single month. It's gonna definitely cost you. Okay, so the last thing I'm gonna talk about in regards to driving is like, there are a lot of highways and ramps. I've definitely seen some people that have moved from places like up north, more so on the West Coast, and they're like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe, like, there's so many ramps. And if you're afraid of heights, if that kind of freaks you out a little bit, that's definitely something to get used to. Me personally, I do suffer from a little bit of anxiety post car accident, and I know my limits as far as highway driving and what I'm comfortable with and things of that sort. And some people might think it's fun, like to literally be in a ramp so high in the sky that you can see everything around you. But it's also something to take into consideration if that's something that doesn't make you feel too comfortable. There are a ton of ramps. And one thing, like driving on the Houston highways, you don't know where it's going to take you. Like, it'll have you merging on 3 highways to get 20 minutes away. And so you have to be really like quick. I will say defensive driving is definitely a necessity in Houston, or at least being a passenger to someone that is a defensive driver, because like, I feel like you cannot blink driving in Houston at all, because it's just so much that's going on. Okay, so a pro that I want to talk about is the opportunity for things to do. I have had the pleasure of watching Houston grow so huge that literally there's something to do every weekend. Like, you have to pick and choose what you can actually make it to and what you actually have time to go to, because there's just so many things to do. I will say I'm not really a nighttime person. I'm not a go out, a clubby club, a party girl. Like, I'm more so a clean fun. I don't want to hear gunshots. I don't want to be somewhere unsafe. I don't want to be drunk, like all those things. And so the great thing is that there's something for literally everybody. There are the turn up spots. There are the family friendly things. One of the things that I got to experience this past year was the Kite Festival, which I didn't even know was a thing. And it was absolutely beautiful. If I have some clips, I'll go ahead and insert them in this video. There are a lot of festivals, a lot of music events. There's plenty of concerts. Oh my gosh. Whether you like orchestra or rock or hip hop, rap, R&B, there's like the big stadiums and then there's like the small intimate ones also. So if you're a music person, that's definitely something to check out. The art culture in Houston is pretty huge. If you go and drive around the city, there are a lot of murals and sculptures and different museums. So the next con on my list is actually going to be the weather. And I've always lived in the South, but like this Houston weather. I remember taking a picture a few years ago and I just called Texas and Houston like such a bipolar city because on one side of my picture, the sky was completely black and muggy and stormy. And then on the other side of the exact same picture, it was like sunlight, like the gates of heaven had opened up. So it's really bipolar. Like you could be going through the trenches of a storm and then 2 seconds later, you're in like sunshine. I don't get it, but that's just what it's like living in Houston. Definitely be prepared, not have a lot of cold weather. It's going to be hot. The summers are going to be very, very hot. I'm talking upwards of 105, 110 potentially. And not only the heat, but more so the humidity as well. So like me being a natural hair girly, a silk press does not last me more than 24 hours in this city. And it just poofs up. It will not survive. So definitely keep that into consideration as well. If you love the summer, if you love the warmer weather, you may absolutely love it here. If you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot deal with that, then this may not be the place for you. Okay, so the next thing on my list, one of my favorite topics, and it is a pro, is the food variety. Like, okay, Houston is on the list of one of the top obesity cities, and it's not by mistake. We literally have food everywhere and food for everybody. You can have it all in Houston. Like you can have the barbecue, you can have Asian, sushi. We call it Tex-Mex here in Texas because it's such a big culture here. So if you love like queso and nachos and tacos, like this is definitely the place for you. And then, of course, we have our regular American food and some other smaller cuisines like Japanese and Brazilian, seafood. You know, we're right next to Louisiana, my hometown. So we have a lot of seafood here as well. You're never going to get bored as far as restaurants. I can guarantee if you're the type of person who likes to try different foods all the time, it's going to take you a really long time to try everything. And even then, like there's going to be so many new restaurants coming up left and right. So, okay, let's get into the nitty gritty about rent. I moved out on my own about 5 years ago, and I've always lived in the outskirts because I wanted to live in a nice, safe area. But over the last few years, I have literally watched Houston's prices go through the roof when it comes to rent. And just out of curiosity, I looked online at my old apartment that I first moved into, and I remember paying like $900 in rent. And now the rent is going upwards of $1,400 to $1,500 for the same one bedroom that is not very much upgraded at all. But because of such a high demand and because more people are moving to the Houston area, the price is going up. So when it comes to rent, and I'm going to get more into depth in a future video, is basically you need to budget for at least, I would say on the low end, $1,100 household rent, upwards to $2,200 if you're wanting to have a luxury apartment, something nice, something in a safe area with nice amenities and just a good lifestyle that's not too extravagant, but just nice. So if that's something like you really want to budget for, and that's going to be like household income. So if we're talking about household income numbers, that's going to be 3 times the rent. So on the 1,100 end, you're looking at making $3,300 gross before taxes. And then on the $2,200 rent, $7,500 a month for 3 times the rent before taxes. So just think about that. I know in comparison to like some other parts of the US, this is still very affordable, but it has definitely changed. Like it's not as cheap as it used to be and as affordable, and that's just due to the demand. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about moving to Houston, because that's definitely going to impact like your budget and your lifestyle and the other things that you can afford outside of paying rent and paying bills. On the topic of rent and apartment hunting and things of that sort, if you're interested, I do have an ebook. It's my award-winning Apartment 101 ebook. It has helped some girls go from living in their parents' house, no idea, no money saved, credit, no idea what to do, to literally moving out in less than a year, just like I did. So that's something that you're interested in. The link will be in my description box. And I'm going to have a little coupon code for my friends over here on YouTube. Okay, so back into it. The next pro that I want to talk about is going to be opportunities. Houston is such a huge city. I mean, from getting east to west, taking over an hour, north to south, like we're covering a lot of land here. And so there are a lot of job opportunities. It's definitely the hub for you if you're working in the medical field, tech, if you are into oil and gas, electricity. It's not hard to find a job, and they definitely do have a lot of opportunities for networking. I always check places like eventbrite.com to find networking events, whether it's in the entrepreneur space like I am or just regular work-related space and you're wanting to meet people when you move here. That's definitely something to look at, but there are a lot of job opportunities and the pay is pretty decent as well, to say like how things compare elsewhere. Another pro that we have here in Houston is that, believe it or not, there are a lot of places to actually be active. Whether you're in the city, like downtown, there's Buffalo Bayou. A lot of people go running along Sabine River. Or the outskirts, we all have our different like communities around downtown Houston, and they all have a lot of parks, trails, biking events, like 5K runs, whatever. So, while we're eating good, we do have the opportunity to also work that off and be outside and be active in the community. One of my favorite things to do in Houston, to be honest, is to go to the dance studio. So I definitely do that as well. And that's one of the things that I really love as far as like events, working a sweat, expressing creativity, things of that sort. Absolutely, absolutely love that. Okay, so let's talk about where you should live based on your lifestyle. If you are a youngin', maybe you're single, maybe you don't have kids yet, or you just love the city vibe, downtown and midtown are going to be your places. Like everything is going to be around you. Most of the city's events, you have more so an availability of public transportation versus the outskirts of the city. You have the metro rail, you have buses and things of that sort to get from point A to point B. And you just love to be in the middle of everything. Downtown and midtown are going to be your best bets. Now, if you're more so like myself and you like the suburbs, like then there are so many options for you. Like starting up north, we have the Woodlands, Conroe. West, you're looking at Cypress, Bridgeland, Katy, Richmond. Going south, we're talking about Pearland. And then, of course, east, we're looking at Humble and Atascocita. But honestly, the entire city is very, very diverse for the most part. Like, you're going to meet people in all different walks of life. Everywhere you go in Houston, you're going to see a lot of different cultures. And that's one thing that's really awesome. It's kind of like the melting pot of the South, because you will meet different people that speak different languages, from French, Spanish, Chinese, Mandarin, just different cultures. So that's definitely something that brings a lot of flavor to the Houston area. It's not all like booze and cowboys, and no, we don't ride horses everywhere we go here. That's definitely a question that I used to get a lot. That's definitely not the reality in today's time in Houston. So final thoughts, my advice for you, if you're thinking about moving to Houston, is really just to do your research. Like, read the reviews on the places that you're thinking about living. Watch more videos such as mine. To get a better feel on what's going to be more so your style, make sure you're checking to see what areas are safe. And then most importantly, because y'all know I am the budget bae, like make sure that wherever you're deciding to move, it fits in your budget. You're not going over that 3 times the rent. You're fitting in what you can afford, and then also being able to maintain the rest of your lifestyle. I really hope this video has helped you guys and given y'all some insight on what it's like to live in Houston, Texas. I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.
I love the sound when you tell me I'm the only one. Way you got me feeling makes me come undone.